And welcome back, everyone, for Week 7 of the 2015 NFL season. I'd like to start off by congratulating all of you who entered my contest last week. I asked you to pick the winner of the Houston-Jacksonville game, hashtag Texans, hashtag Jaguars. Well, the Texans did one, so I took the names of all of you who picked Houston and put them in a hat, picked out a winner, and Kid Blue 27, you won the contest. You send me your information and I will send you this gioknows Let's Take the Man's Money gear. And you know what? That was so much fun. We're going to do another contest later on in the video, so we'll look forward to that. All right. Here are this week's picks. Well, if it wasn't for a backdoor cover, a third-string quarterback, and a 7-0-2 call, we would have done a lot better last week. All right, the first game we're going to look at has Buffalo going to Jacksonville. This game is being played in London. Jaguars are home favorites of 6 points. The Jags are in trouble. They're probably the worst team in the NFL. They're banged up offensively. So are Buffalo, as a matter of fact, but at least Buffalo has a very good defense. And Shady McCoy is back for Buffalo. I think he'll be able to score enough points by himself. You know what? Let's lay the points and let's take Buffalo -6. The second game we're going to look at has Cleveland going to St. Louis. The Rams are 5.5-point favorites at home. They're coming off the bye. You know, the Rams tend to play up to their competition and down to their competition. Cleveland is sort of a middling team, but you know what? They've been playing really well. They kept it close last week against Denver. I think this might be too many points for a St. Louis offense that doesn't score. Cleveland certainly does. So let's take the points and let's take Cleveland +5.5. The third game we're going to look at has Houston going to Miami. The Dolphins are four-point favorites at home. You know, I thought both ways about this game. Miami fired their coach and played really well on offense, defense, and special teams. Sometimes there's a letdown here, but Houston's a very bad team. And I think Miami is probably now going to play to the level which a lot of us thought they were going to play when the season started. It's under a touchdown. So let's lay the points. Let's take Miami -4. And the fourth game we're going to look at has New Orleans going to Indianapolis, where the Colts are 5-point favorites at home. I think the Colts will win this game, but I think that might be too big of a number. New Orleans is coming off of the Thursday game, so they have a little bit of extra rest. You know, these are teams are similar to each other. You know, lots of passing. They played in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. You know, they know each other very well, even though Luck wasn't the quarterback then. I think it's just too many points here. So, you know what, let's take the points and let's take New Orleans -5. Here are my over-under plays. The first game we're going to look at is that Cleveland-St. Louis game we talked about earlier. The number's 42. I like Cleveland's ability to put up points. That they should easily eclipse that mark, so let's take over 42. The second game we're going to look at has my Minnesota Vikings going to Detroit, where the number is 44.5. Minnesota is the only team in the NFL who's gone under all 5 times, or every time they've played a game. I think this will be a defensive struggle. Minnesota doesn't score very much on the road, so let's take under the 44.5. The next game has Atlanta going to Tennessee. You know, Atlanta in the Thursday game, they have such a good running game, and New Orleans had such a poor run defense, and they decided to pass the ball. I was very 7-0-2-ish there. I think they'll get back to what they do really well and run the ball and run it often, and they'll rack up the points. So let's go over the 48. And the fourth game we're going to look at has Dallas going to New York to take on the Giants. That number is 45.5. You know, traditionally, these teams go over the number, and I realize it's going to be Castle instead of Whedon at quarterback. That actually might be a good thing, and expect a big scoring game here. So let's take over the 45.5. Here's my Let's Take the Man's Money parlay play. We're going to be a little bit more conservative this week. We're going to take 4 games against the spread and 1 over-under. We'll take Buffalo -6, Cleveland +5.5, Miami -4, New Orleans +5, and we'll take over 42 in the Cleveland-St. Louis game. A $25 bet will get you $634.92. Good luck. Here are my straight-up plays for this week. I don't see too many upsets happening, but I do see one happening in the Thursday night game. Seattle goes to San Francisco. I would have put money on this. It's just that I've been snake bit with the Thursday night games. I think San Francisco is going to beat Seattle. The second game is the one in London we talked about earlier as Buffalo plays Jacksonville. I like Buffalo. And here's our contest for this week. 6 of the 12 head coaches that have lost in London have been immediately fired. So my question is, will Jacksonville head coach, if they do lose, will he get fired after this game? Hashtag Bradley gets fired or hashtag Bradley doesn't get fired for a chance to win a gioknows t-shirt. The third game has Cleveland going to St. Louis. I do think St. Louis wins the game, but it will be close. Pittsburgh's at Kansas City. I like Pittsburgh in that game. Kansas City, it doesn't matter who's the quarterback for Pittsburgh. They just win, and Kansas City is just in a lot of trouble, so let's take Pittsburgh. I like Miami over Houston. The Jets play New England in what should be the best game of the week. The Jets usually play New England tough, but I'd still like the Patriots to win that game, so we'll take New England. My Minnesota Vikings go to Detroit. Minnesota's slightly favored. I'm going to take them, but I am a Minnesota fan, so keep that in mind. I'm going with the Vikings there. I like Atlanta over Tennessee. I like Washington to beat Tampa Bay. In an upset, I like New Orleans to beat Indianapolis. Why not? I like San Diego over Oakland, although you might want to watch that one. San Diego quarterback Philip Rivers threw for 1,000,000 yards and might have a bit of a letdown. Plus, I think his wife just delivered their 8th child, so he might be celebrating this week. Could be a letdown there. I'll take the Giants over Dallas. I am going to take the Philadelphia Eagles to beat Carolina this week in the Sunday Nighter, as it's Carolina's turn to get the dreaded 702 call. And in the Monday night game, I'll take Arizona over Baltimore. Okay, and those are my picks for this week. Good luck to you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure you enter my contest for a chance to win some gioknows gear. And check out my webpage, gioknows.com, filled with lots of great information. And make sure you check out our Facebook page, filled with great NFL YouTube prognosticators. These guys and girls are the best in the business. Okay, for the gioknows YouTube channel, I am Gio. Let's take the man's money.